into our third week of looking at the garden, the curtain and the cross. And we've had a few things in our box, haven't we, that's helped us to think about that story. So we had our snake, which, as you can see, Rupert is still really interested in. He'd love to get his teeth into my snake, wouldn't you, Rupert? Hey, you're not going to though, are you? No, good boy. And then last week in our box was a curtain. And you all were looking out for it in the story, weren't you? I'm sure you found it, the keep out curtain that God tore in two, so that we can be in his family. So this week I've got something else in our box. Shall we have a look? Well, first of all, oh, it feels quite light this week, so it must be something small. Shall we shake? Oh, there's no noise when we shake. That's funny, it's very light, there's no noise. What do you think could be in it? See if you can think of a few things. Could there be one of Rupert's balls? No, we'd be able to hear that. Could it be my pyjamas? I think I put them back under my pillow. I can't think what it could be. Shall we open the box and see? Okay, here we go. What's in the box? Oh, hang on a minute. What's going on? Are you sitting on it? There's nothing in the box. The box is empty. Oh my goodness. But I can think of a reason why it might be empty. There's a bit in our story today where there's something that, because of Jesus on the cross, something got put inside, but then also because of Jesus on the cross, it was empty. So why don't you have a watch of our story today? And it's the last time we're going to hear this story for this Easter. So why don't you have a watch of the story, see if you can find something that ends up being empty. And it's not empty in a bad way, it's empty in a really good way. In fact, it's empty in a way that gives us the best news we could ever have. So have a think, have a watch. When you watch the story, look for something that had something in it but then ended up empty, and it's all because of Jesus on the cross. Alright, so next week it'll be Easter Sunday and we'll be talking about something very special, so I hope you'll join me again. So see you soon. I'm going to close up the box now and put it away before Rupert ends up inside there. A very long time ago, right here in this world, there was a garden. In the garden, everything was wonderful. The world was full of laughing and playing and smiling and fun. There was nothing bad ever. There was no one sad ever. And best of all, God was there. He had made it all. He was in charge of it all. He loved it all. People could see God and speak to God and just enjoy being with God. It was wonderful to live with God. But then one day the people did a terrible thing. They decided they didn't want to do what God said. They decided they wanted a world without God in charge. God called this sin. Sin spoils things. Sin has no place in God's wonderful garden. God said to the people, "You can't live with me in my garden anymore," and he sent them outside. To show the people that they had to stay outside, God put some warrior angels in front of the garden. The angels were like a big keep out sign. Now things were sometimes sad, and people were sometimes sad. But people still kept sinning because they didn't want God to be in charge. So no one could come into God's wonderful place. God said, because of your sin, you can't come in. But God wanted people to remember, it's wonderful to live with him, but because of your sin, you can't come in. He told the people to build a special building called the temple, where he would live. In the middle of the temple was the most wonderful place in the world, a place where God was, with nothing bad and nothing sad. It was very exciting, but then God told the people, put a big curtain around this wonderful place. The curtain had pictures of warrior angels on it. It was a big keep out sign. For hundreds of years, the temple curtain reminded people that God said, it's wonderful to live with him, but because of your sin, you can't come in. Babies became grown-ups and had babies, and those babies became grown-ups and had babies, and those babies became grown-ups and had babies. Hundreds of summers and winters passed by, and the keep-out curtain stayed in the temple. But then one day, God's Son came to live in this world as a person. He was called Jesus. Jesus always did what God said. Jesus never sinned. And Jesus visited the temple where the keep-out curtain hung. Jesus knew that things were sometimes bad and sometimes sad. Jesus said that God had sent him to open the way back to God's wonderful place, where there would be nothing bad and no one sad. But people still did not want to let God be in charge. So they decided to put Jesus on a cross to die. It was the most bad thing that ever happened. It was the most sad day of all time. But Jesus had a plan. He had always planned to die on the cross. What a strange plan. Why would God's Son plan to die? On the cross, Jesus took our sin, all the bad things we do, all the sad things they cause. Jesus took them all from us, and when he did, something amazing, astonishing, astounding happened. The curtain tore. God had ripped up the keep out sign. God's wonderful place is open again. Because Jesus died, we can go in. After Jesus died, his friends put him in a tomb. They were very sad. For 2 days, nothing happened. Then, the next morning, Jesus' friends went to see his body in the tomb, and it wasn't there. A little later on, Jesus' friends were all together, and suddenly, Jesus was there, alive. Suddenly, his friends weren't so sad. Now they were so happy. God had brought Jesus back to life, so he could live in God's wonderful place forever. And Jesus has given everyone an invitation to come and live with him there too. He tells us, God says it is wonderful to live with him. Because of your sin, you can't come in. But I died on the cross to take your sin. So all my friends can now come in. We can live with God forever. There will be nothing bad and no one sad. We will see God and speak to God and just enjoy being with God, just as he planned. And it's all because of Jesus. And we will say every day, Thank you, Jesus. You are amazing. And you can start saying that today.
Put the stars in outer space, pop the freckles on my face, and all the fish that swim and all the birds that fly were made from your incredible imagination. Creator God, sing to the Creator God of all the world. Creator God, we celebrate you. We celebrate you. Spread the ripples through the sea. You paint the stripes on every beam, and all the grass that grows and all the leaves that fall are part of your amazing plans for this creation. Creator God, sing to the Creator God of all the world. Creator God, we celebrate you. We celebrate you. The heat into the sun. You placed a heart in everyone, and all the music played and all the dancing done reminds us that we're meant to be creative like our Creator God. Sing to the Creator God of all the world. Creator God, we celebrate you. Creator God, sing to the Creator God of all the world. Creator God, we celebrate you. We celebrate you.